And we're live, folks, back again. This is your host, JP, a.k.a. The Demon. And, roll call. Just joking. We're not talking Skyward yet, folks. We are actually here to discuss, thankfully and finally, and about time, the Black Prism.
Ooh. I don't hear anything.
Roll call.
Andrew's not talking.
He's not saying
Yeah, what should I? Yeah, you want me to usurp the intro?
No. All right, let's go.
All right, Captain coming from Arizona. Nowhere special this time. Nowhere special.
Oh. I thought you were gonna, come from Tyria or something.
You look so disappointed.
You're here with the usual suspects, plus the captain, as you already know, but none of these guys are introducing themselves. I don't know why.
Okay, I didn't know I was going first.
I said roll call, goddammit. What kind of a
Manny
flight?
the Dream is here. I'm coming to you from the ashes of Rectum.
Ooh.
What's the name of the city?
Rectum.
That's it. I don't know if it's Rectum. It's definitely Rectum.
Rectum.
It's Rectum.
But Manny is
Rectum. Yeah, you're killed him.
Rectum's always on my mind. Okay. Manny's that's a different place, Manny.
It's hard for me to believe that was not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I am Brett, the director. I am deep in the caverns of a blue cell.
Wow.
And that's it.
Hitman here. I'm just here.
I'm just here. And Cherry.
And Cherry. Okay, guys. Well, let's do a quick roundhouse and cheers to the Black Prism after Manny pours again.
Oh my god, wait, hold on. Over.
Kampai.
The coffee's getting cold.
Yeah, we gotta hurry, man. So, let's go roundabout. I'm really curious to see. Manny just spilled on my table.
Uh-oh.
No.
There was nothing spilled.
I want to go around the table and just hear, what did you think, just first impressions of book one? Spoiler free. Starting with Eam the Dream.
Book one was a little bit hard to understand for me. All the different terminology that was being used, I felt like I was inadequate and illiterate. So, yeah.
Director?
I really, really liked it. Much like Manny, although he didn't articulate it fantastically 2 seconds ago, but we talked about it earlier a little bit. It did take a little bit of getting into for me. The first few chapters, I was a little bit confused. I felt like, oh my gosh, there's so much magic being thrown at me. I don't know exactly how all this works. But I feel like the author does a great job of kind of reintroducing ideas as it's necessary and then slow rolling it afterwards. It feels a little overwhelming at first. But I think as long as you can kind of get into the first 5 to 10 chapters, you'll start getting on a roll. And I thought it was really good, and I'm super excited for the next one.
Cool. I loved it. It's my second time reading the book. Although it's been long enough that it's pretty fresh, which is good. The one thing I can comment about is...
Wait, it's been long enough that it feels fresh?
That's
yeah,
correct,
because he
sir.
forgot a lot.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Did we trade places? Just wondering. The coffee's really done me some good, I guess. I don't know. But,
Which one of you guys is in the blue cell down in the basement?
Me!
Right. I don't know what you're talking about.
Me, just pissing everywhere.
I loved it. But I do remember now, because I remember how epic the books are. I forgot how this book is all set up. It's literally just laying the foundation, so to speak. And I realized that when I was reading it again. The other thing I do like is he does slow roll the magic, but a lot of it hits you hard fast, and you're just confused. Not confused, but you're kind of like, whoa, how does this work?
Yeah.
But thankfully, you're learning with a main character who's as ignorant as we are.
Right.
Which I think is the right way to kind of slowly introduce the concepts that we'll eventually become familiar with.
Yeah, we talked about this for 2 seconds, where I was
RPG plots.
I was taking notes, and I'm just they went through this whole chapter of magic explanation, and my takeaway was somehow shaded spectacles helps and color's important.
Yeah.
And Jeff is yeah, but that's probably how Kip felt after that magic lesson. He's probably
Yeah.
like, the glasses have something to do with it, and there's
Yeah.
color.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how he felt. Actually, they kind of say like he's like,
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool.
I was into the book right away, even though it was a bit confusing. But I agree with Jeff. Like the whole first half of the book, I'm like, oh my god, like nothing's happened, even though I'm halfway through.
Even though it's still interesting.
I was still into
somehow,
it. I was like, oh man, I want to see what happens. But it's like they're still in victim.
Yeah. Damn near killed him.
Not my greatest moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of information that they kind of throw at you right in the beginning, and as you go through, though, I think that they lay a really good foundation in terms of characters, because there's you kind of like Kip, especially when you get introduced, you kind of feel like, all right, he's this kind of like fat little kid from this village. They give you a good little backstory with kind of the angst that he's gonna have because of his mother and like family type stuff, but little hints about, okay, there's something that's gonna be there, and then it's such a turnaround from like, it's not this like already awesome person. It's kind of, he is a little bit pathetic to start out with, and I feel like they're throwing you into this like, he's gonna be something awesome, and you have a lot of like room to be like, okay, this character is gonna grow, and there's gonna be a lot of like excited stuff, especially when you look back and be like, oh yeah, he's this fat little kid like that doesn't know jack squat and like has this abusive mother, and how much he's gonna grow. So I'm excited for that.
Cool. Captain?
Not to parrot what was already said, but I think that this book was tough to get into. The author chooses to explain things as they become important rather than present you with any background information, right from the get-go. So I think it works for Kip's character because he's very uneducated with a lot of the way the magic system works and the way the politics work with the world. But in scenes where it's from Gavin's perspective, it's definitely a lot more difficult to follow what the hell is going on because he's in the know of everything. Same with the White and the Council, like everyone else already has all this extensive knowledge. And as a reader, the first couple scenes you get from that part, from those characters, are just really baffling. You're like, well, I'm just going to try to remember this and hopefully this will come into use later. And it does. It's a fantasy stories that requires more focus than some of the other traditional Swords and Horses fantasies that we've read. This one requires more in-depth attention. I read this book the wrong way, which was audiobooking while driving, while doing dishes, while doing other things, and that is not the way to do this book because you're just gonna miss so much. So
yeah.
The good news is that you're not alone, and the next good news is that because it's foundational, we'll have the opportunity to build upon it, which is kind of interesting. And I'm super curious.
But is that good news though? Because I feel like if our foundation is not strong, it's only going to get worse.
Well, I'll give you an example. My foundation was not strong the first time I read this book series.
But the second time,
No. Second time I was impatient. I'm like, God damn it! Why don't I just explain
to
this?
it? Yeah.
Explain.
I feel like I disagree with you guys in terms of nothing happens. Like I feel like there's always something happening in the book.
Yes and no, in a weird way, right? It's like something's always happening, but in terms of plot movement, a lot of it is all kind of like situational explanations.
I feel like to me the book felt really well
paced.
Really well paced. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there's a lot
well.
of things happening, and there's really like natural interaction and introduction of characters to one another.
Yeah.
I thought that was like
I agree
really
with
good
that,
synergy with that. The only thing that I thought was a little bit like hard for me to follow was the fact that it gave you only glimpses of things, thinking that it's going to go back and explain them in more detail when it really doesn't that exact moment. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to forget this minute detail that might be really important later on.
I think one of the reasons it feels that way, though, is just because it's not until towards the end that you really start realizing that this is just a setup for potential. Well, I'm assuming. I haven't read the rest of the series. This is the only one I've read. But I'm assuming that it was just all a big setup to kind of establish the world, establish the characters for the what is it? The Omnichroma Prince or whatever for
Omnichrome.
the
Prince
Omnichrome. Prince Omnichrome or whatever. It was kind of like a setup for whatever he's going to have going on. You're almost misdirected even in the beginning to think that the prince is a big deal, and then you start realizing that he's not even the big deal, or the king. Yeah, sorry, the king.
The satrap.
He's a king. He considers himself a king, but he would be
A governor.
a satrap or whatever they call him.
Yeah,
satrap.
Satrapy. Satrapy.
Satrapy.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Close, Josh. That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, rat-a-tat.
But you know what's interesting about this is you notice, and this is where I'm going to dive in real quick on Gavin, is like he seems so cool, and then immediately you're like, whoa, is this guy a super creepy, evil, freaking asshole?
Just a little side note, dive in really quick on Gavin is also what Karis likes.
Ooh, are you sure?
Well, who Gavin really is.
So the interesting thing that I find about book one and what you guys are saying is I think it's the setup is a purposeful layer upon layer upon layer of lies, secrets, and misdirection.
Yeah.
And then
there's actually one more layer, but go on.
And another layer.
Yeah.
And then there's a layer that everything is built on, and we didn't even go into yet, and we don't even know if anyone knows.
Yeah.
Everything, because they are also hinting about old stuff.
Right.
There's a lot
history.
of old.
So like it's almost like you may think our characters know everything because it seems like they know everything, but even they may have a limited vision, and the theme is, oh man, there's all these layers of secrets and information, and and so that's can be confusing and frustrating a little bit, but at the same time, it's a great setup for what
conflict.
I think right from the beginning too, it sets you up for this. Like, you're like, all right, we're gonna get to a point, and it's gonna be like, holy shit, that's what all of this means. Like, you kind of feel like from the beginning that there's this. You're kind of getting these like little breadcrumbs, kind of, and then you're just gonna get to this point where it's like, that's the freaking cake, and you're gonna see everything, and it's gonna be like, holy crap, that's what the heck's going on, and it builds it up a lot, because you're just like, oh, I know there's something going on here, like this has to do with this, like there's all these moving parts, and you keep kind of feeding it.
Well, I definitely also feel like this author, I mean, this could have just been the way that I saw it, but I definitely feel like this author loves to set up situations where literally within like a few chapters you're just like, oh, that's what that meant. I thought it was something completely different. Like even something I was telling Jeff the other day, like even something as simple as in chapter like 2 or whatever, he's talking about, oh, I'm going to take the blue dye, and that means, okay, now it's safe to eat or something like that. And I was thinking like, oh, so blue dye reveals like poison or something. But then 2 chapters later, you're just like, oh no, it's just so he can't draft off of it. And it's like he likes it. I feel like he loves to set up certain points of view and then be like, no, that's not really how you should be looking at it. You should be looking at it from over here. And he might be doing that with the whole story overall, I feel like.
The crazy thing to me, just like a thought, I was realizing like there's like huge secrets that are revealed to us as a reader immediately. Yeah. And then my immediate gut reaction is like, what does that mean about the real secrets? Right. You know what I mean? Because it's like, suddenly, it could be like a whole movie, and at the end of the movie, you're like, Gavin's not Gavin? Yeah. What? But instead, it's like one chapter in, and you're like... Right. Oh no! Actually, he's now we're reading about how he's trying to keep this secret and whatever, and it would be like a super revolutionary secret.
Plot twist! We didn't find out until later. We thought Gavin was Gavin, and he captured his brother.
Yeah, it wasn't right at the beginning, but it was still with a lot of the book left. It was. I definitely think it was before the halfway point.
Yeah, for sure.
There was still a lot of book left.
Because I was like, oh man, I was super surprised.
Yeah, I was too.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not like you weren't surprised, but then you're like, they just gave us that gigantic.
Well, it's like a
secret
big thing.
I think
right
what he's
now.
saying is it's a revelation that almost feels like a last chapter type revelation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's given to us halfway
The
through.
author could
That's
have
like how big
really
it is.
milked that for a lot more than he did.
Right.
I
right.
felt he could have, but I think it's kind of cool that you find out early because then you're just like, oh, you
It
think
gives
of all the
everything else so much
ramifications.
more.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing, because then I'm like, well, if that's what he's giving to us early,
What's it?
where is he really? Like,
is he
it's kind
going
of
with
like
it?
the misdirection, you know? So he's like, he's like giving us this thing early. So then it's like, what is he not wanting us to see yet?
Yeah.
Or what are we not like?
What's
what
he
is
holding
the,
in his back pocket?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there is something big,
Something
and so,
big coming.
That's what I feel every time. I'm like, why they just give you this crazy secrets?
Yeah. I definitely feel like, I mean, this is kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I definitely feel like, well, maybe I'll bring this up later. Anyway, I was just going to say, I definitely feel like that there's going to be a lot of alliances or coming to realize that you have the same goals later that we wouldn't see between people. Like, I'm not even completely convinced that the prince or whatever that set all this
Omnichrome?
up, the Omnichrome prince, I'm not even completely convinced that somehow he's going to be like the person they're against the whole time. In book 2, we may come to find that they both didn't realize exactly what's going on and that their goals are more aligned than we thought
Oh,
at
yeah.
the end of this, you know?
I feel like we got introduced to some pretty heavy hitters that we
Yeah.
haven't seen much of.
Right.
That are really like behind the scenes. Like the White, like that bitch is up to something.
Yeah.
Like, oh hey Karis, go do this. And by the way, here's this crazy message that I'm gonna psychologically kick your
Oh
ass.
yeah,
with.
and
Yeah.
they like plant this into you. That seems very suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't
Like-
trust
And you're like,
Iron Fist at all.
Oh man,
That I
Whoa.
wasn't even thinking
Is
of.
there a Brett bet that I'm sniffing?
Nope.
I don't
no, that's your shit.
Manny,
that's probably just someone's rectum.
state it, man. State it. I want this to be a Brett bet. This would be fun.
Brett bat.
Brett bet.
All right.
All right, state it. Do it.
Iron Fist is working undercover for the White, and he's a part of a bigger scheme.
I mean,
And I don't trust him.
And he's
They
going to be
all-
against Gavin
Oh yeah.
but
and Kip.
Well, doesn't
they take direct orders from the White.
doesn't the Black Guard serve
It's
the
not
really
undercover
Chromeria,
for him.
which
That's
is the
true.
White?
The Blackguard's the White, not the Chromeria.
'Cause, like,
because the
if the White-
Chromerium's like the council.
If the White
Well-
wanted him to kill the Prism, he would.
No, but I know that. But I mean, I think that there's an ulterior motive to like sending him or having him there. Like I think that they're definitely plotting something, and I don't even know if he could kill like Gavin, but there's something that he can do.
So this probably can't be part of the Brett bet, but I'm curious if anybody, having that said, which I think is really interesting, do you guys think then that actually Kip is already currently part of that plan? Because he seems really, really hell-bent on protecting Kip.
I feel like it because, like, first of all, she knew about it. She gave the note to somebody. He's like
Yeah.
really protective of him. I don't know. Like, it all just is leading me to
Smells.
believe that they're doing something behind the scenes.
Well, I feel like Chip's gonna be the next Prism,
That Kip's gonna, oh, okay.
and they want to keep him safe.
I kind of definitely feel that way.
Like I don't know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like felt that way.
I wasn't sure. I personally wasn't thinking that they thought that, but I think that that's actually a good point.
I was thinking
but
that
I
as
was
well.
just thinking
Yeah.
that myself. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Kip's. I mean, I guess that's not too hard to guess. He's kind of the main character-ish. You know, I feel
Yeah,
like
he is.
I feel like
He's
if
the
you
first
could
one you're
if you could
introduced
say
to.
a main character, he'd probably be it. Even though it's kind of like multi-protagonist story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting.
So what are you gonna? How are you gonna frame? So
I would say then maybe going along Ben's ideals, like I think he's definitely like potentially the next Prism,
okay.
and I think they might be like psychologically grooming him to be more submissive or to follow their lead, as opposed to like Gavin, who's kind of like, nah.
So
Yeah,
You think he was
But-
set up
Rebel.
then to live in that town to like make him malleable?
Do I think that what? I'm sorry.
He was like forced to live in that town to make him,
malleable.
yeah.
Oh, Kip.
I don't know if it would go that far,
Because
but maybe.
I mean, the general knew he lived there.
Yeah.
Like, and the White could have known, and it's like, let's make him suffer so he has be humble.
Well, I don't think the general is with the White.
Well, I mean, like the general knew, and the White has a greater resources
Reach
that he does.
So is
it's
it really
possible.
though? Is the Brett bet really about Kip or is it about Iron Fist?
It's Iron Fist.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Iron Fist. How are you gonna? Is it like Iron Fist is part of some other motive, or
So I think the Brett bet is that it's not that Iron Fist's loyalties solely ride with the White, but
Okay.
that he's specifically there for a current plan that is set into effect by them.
Okay.
That
that's like
involves
outside of our current knowledge?
That's
It's
outside of our current knowledge.
Right.
underground knowledge.
Right.
Right. Thing. Okay. All right. Cool. So Manny's obviously saying yes. So it's a yes and no essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the best.
Yeah,
Director.
that's
I disagree with this. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm just joking. Sorry, Sunshine.
I think that this
I had to
is
add
super,
it.
super ambiguous, and we need to talk about this for about 25 minutes. I think, oh man, that's a good one though. I think that it's very possible, but I'm gonna go with no. I don't think that there's. Yes. I'm gonna go with yes. Yes.
So, Josh,
You abstain.
we have to let's put our chips in with the owner or something. Like, how should we do it, or should we
Yeah.
just stay out of it?
Stay out of it.
Stay out of
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
We'll just stay out of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hitman.
I'll say no. I'm gonna go against.
So it's no, yes.
It's no, yes.
Oh,
said
no,
no,
yes,
yes,
yes.
And to
Captain?
even it out, I'll agree with Ben, and I'll say that from a character's perspective, I think a warrior's death guarding his charge, the person he's supposed to protect, would be the best way for him to go out. So I'll agree with Ben.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Dude, actually, Iron Fist is one of like the coolest characters.
Yeah.
I think he's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Also,
I like him.
I
think
kind of want to
that,
change my answer as well, but it's too
yeah.
late.
Too late. All right.
Not because of any information, but just because I do remember how bad Manny is at Brett bets.
All right. Let's compile. Hey, Manny, can you pour a little chum charum in mine? That's actually what it says.
I know.
Thank you, sir.
Charum.
That was a shit ton. Okay.
Chum charum.
Cheers to the bread bet on Iron Fist. Chum chum. Hurrah.
I don't
So
know,
let's talk.
I feel like Iron
Wait.
Fist is gonna change loyalties and go with
Kip.
the Spectrum, the Prism. The
Oh.
Prism.
Gavin.
Because he spent his like entire time on the computer, like ditching the Black Guards, and he realized that he kind of fucked up later because they don't have any loyalty to him, like they won't take his orders, and now like in a war they saw what he could do and what he did for the people, and
How
like,
good he is. Yeah.
you know what? Maybe we should follow him because people followed Gavin out of just loyalty to him of his personality and what he does.
It's funny
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times they jump back and forth between it's like, oh, it's this religious, he's like a godly type person. So you're kind of introduced and you're thinking from the beginning like, and even Gavin just like, this is bullshit. But like when they start pulling into his character and how he reacts and how he treats people, it adds such a cool like thing where you're just like, you're kind of rooting for him more because he's in this position where everyone's like, oh, everyone should just follow him because he's a religious leader, like he's like a god, and then he's just such an awesome character that you're just like, actually, like he's just making people follow him because he's a badass. And
I mean, not even
what
to get
he's
too
doing.
far ahead of us, but like towards the end when he's doing the freeing, there were even like a couple. There was like one specific girl that like was just like figured out who he was.
Yeah.
but she was just like, good luck.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, she didn't do that. She went out and fought.
She went out
Oh,
and
that's
fought,
right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, she wasn't free.
So,
but,
let me-
But she was like,
Yeah.
she fought against him. She was fighting for Gavin, but
Yeah.
she was like, just like all right with it, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much, she seemed like anyway.
Let me kind of like rope us back just a tiny bit because we're in episode 1, part 1.
Right.
Cherry, where were you gonna go, real quick? Is it like towards the beginning ish?
I was gonna let's talk about the magic system because I think it's such a cool...
Can you save that for like 1 second? Because before the magic system, there's actually one thing I'm curious about, you guys. Magic system is right next. It's really about the introduction of Kip. That's where we start the book, and in my opinion, the introduction was super interesting. only because you essentially immediately get in and follow this fat kid who's out in the middle of a like kind of
chubby.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you know?
Obese.
Because they call him Tubbs.
But he even describes
You
his
can call
own
fat
roles.
people tubby. I mean, if
Anyway,
you're a dick.
we don't know.
Yeah.
It's how you think about it. But anyway, he's out in this like field trying to like kind of scavenge some Luxon.
Poor guy.
Some old Luxon. And then runs into a guy who goes Green Golem.
Yeah.
A whole like thing about the... But I'm really curious, starting from that point, how did you feel about the introduction of Kip, his inner like his personality,
Yeah.
and like the moments of that early book where you're reading about when he sees these kids die and he's running for his life, and how like his whole personality as what you figure out to be the hero of the book or the main character of the book.
Because I totally, when I first read this, when I went through that story, I'm like, okay, so this is just like your first chapter intro to the world, and this isn't the main character. This is just going to be like someone that's going to die.
Yeah.
And I was
You know why?
This guy's going to...
Actually, I'm not going to say why, but I think I know why. Because it's a spoiler for another series, but I think I know why.
But the whole, like, the way they introduce him, the way that they kind of, like, do it, I'm just like, oh. So, like, this is just, like, that one story, and then the person's going to die, and then it's going to, like, go on to the next chapter, which is going to be, like, your main character.
Right.
It's going to be, like, almost like your mid-chapters in, like, a Brendan Sanderson book, where they're all totally random different people. So that's when I first read it, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be it. Especially when they're just, like, it's not this, like, embodied, like, physical, awesome person that's, like, already, like, you're, like, really intrigued by. You're like, oh, just this little fat kid, like, going to scavenge.
Why do you guys keep saying kid? He's 15.
Well, I mean,
That's a kid.
That is a kid.
I mean, I wouldn't call him a kid.
Manny World.
I mean,
when you say kid, I keep on thinking like this would be like 8-year-old.
I mean, I honestly picture him with like a baby face, and he's like a little like I like what I would picture like a freshman, like a little heavy set freshman kid, like waddling in with his backpack.
I think putting things into perspective when you play like an RPG game or even look at other books, they're
like
usually 16 or 17, and we don't call them kids.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still think
I
kids.
think honestly the way that they showed him as the main character, not as a main character, but the way they introduce him is just like he's baby faced. He's not liked by a lot of people. He's like heavy
he's
set.
Whiny.
And he's whiny. Yeah, from the beginning, like you're just kind of like, oh, this is And I agree. Like a lot of those characters that they introduce in like other stories, you're like they're just as young, but they introduce them like they're already like out hunting in the wild because they're the only source of food for their family for like the last their mom's dead. Like
I mean, Kip is that way too.
Oh yeah, but he seems so.
I'm moral and skilled only because I had to be.
Yeah, he seems to be like
relying on my family.
He's light on his feet, but he's also like clumsy and just he's
light on his feet.
Meandering.
The way that he described it was he runs and then he could get going really fast, but then he's screwed.
Yeah.
Especially when he trips over a gigantic log.
I mean, there's no Spin. Yeah. Spin was in the same situation. He was the same age, right?
Who was?
Spin.
Yeah.
I mean, she was out hunting rats for the family, but she
Spin.
was
I guess I didn't get the same impression. I wouldn't. I don't think kid.
Oh
yeah.
Like
you think young man?
Like I'm thinking like I don't know, just like young adult. You know what I mean? Like when you're in your teenage years and you're.
I'm pretty sure when I was 15, I almost weighed 100 pounds.
I mean, I think they can both be the same thing. Like when I think kid because I'm 36, but I think you can be a young adult kid, but you can also be a child, which is like under kid.
From 0 to 20.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. 0 to 30. I'm still a kid.
But
0 to
anyway,
37.
Despite kid or young man or whatever. Yeah.
But I also thought it was really cool what the author did with the his interaction with the drafter, and how like this guy almost like pulls it out of him. It's like, you feel special, don't you? You this, you that,
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I do. He's like, it's because you're delusional. And like I felt like the same way. I'm like, yeah, this kid's gonna be special. He's gonna be awesome. And then I was just like,
I love
Well, that's
that
why
scene.
I think that sets it up to a lot of it. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this kid's dead in
Right.
like 5 minutes. And he's like, it's just the
Oh,
intro
so
to
he's
the
gonna
world.
kill him
Yeah.
now.
It's just an intro to the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he goes and he immediately. Wait, Captain, you gotta. I'm curious.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I totally agree with Cherry's comments. There's almost like this growing trope in fantasy stories, and you get it in every single George R.R. Martin book, where the very first character who is introduced is somebody who's gonna get killed. So you just get like a small section of their life that shows you a little tantalizing clue of a bigger mystery, and that's all you get.
Yeah.
And I kind of had that feeling with Kip as well, and especially when the drafter was there and he had those awesome comments.
The comments.
Yeah, that definitely put it there. For the beginning, it was a unique take on a very standardized fantasy trope in that the story always opens up with a village getting raided, burned, destroyed.
Ransacked.
But in this version, he gets a warning right before it's going to happen, and the character actually has the opportunity to go into town and warn people, as many people as he can, like, you got to leave now. So that was kind of different. And then we get the perspective from the prisoner, the drafter, who is going to go on and is about to start a mission of his own,
Yeah.
which is pretty neat. Normally, we would get this exact same scene from like some badass ranger who's been living out on his own, but that's
But it's this kid. Yeah. unassuming kid kinda.
but yeah, this was a good switch up.
I mean, if you think about it, he's like saving Rectum from all these.
There was one thing I wanted to mention: the juxtaposition between Kip's chapter and Gavin's chapter. As a reader, I actually really got angry very fast reading it, because you get Kip's perspective of like all of these people, innocent people being murdered, and like animals exploding and getting murdered, and then they cut to Kip's chapter, who's like, his first chapter is worried about getting laid with Karis, and you're like, if this is the king of this country, this son of a bitch needs to get his act together and do something. And I started immediately getting very angry. And then right after, like immediately in the next chapter, Kip's like, okay, I'm going to go over to this area and scout some things out. And it happens to be the burning village. You're like, okay, well, I'm glad I'm glad the author like really anticipated those reader expectations and quelled them right away.
You know what? You bring an amazing point up, because, like you're going through this like harsh, like people dying, a building, like all this shit going down, and then you're with Gavin and he's like his silk clothes and his like cush stuff and his room slave, and he's like
high up in the
he's
tower.
like just like you get a totally and I think it's purposeful, because that is how at times detached the Chromeria is
From the rest of the
from
world.
the rest of the world, or at least certain parts of the world that they choose for reasons that we learn later has to do with the Prisms War, the false Prisms War, that they kind of shed on these territories.
Yeah, but I feel like that's pretty common in all these fantasy books. The nobility's off doing their own thing, drinking, well, the peasants are starving.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting because you think about like George R.R.'s book, like any of them, and you're like essentially like a lot of the characters you're following are the guys who are like sipping on wine or running the armies, and they're always like peasants dying and like, but you're never like the peasant.
Yeah.
You're always like, you know what I mean? You're like out here. In this book, you get like an immediate juxtaposition, like the captain said, between the non-peasant who's kind of like, aha, maybe a hero and maybe good, and can save the day kind of thing, but I also have my silk cloths and my wine and blah, 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 and yada, yada. But then also Kip, who's like, freaking out because his crush just got an arrow, and then, his bully enemy also got an arrow, which he was actually like pleasant enough to say like, well, I really hated that guy, but man, I didn't really want him to die. So like it's pretty interesting. Okay.
I think it's also cool the whole situation with Kip just being like not your typical like main hero character, because he does he gives a bit more realism to it, because you're like, oh my god, his freaking mom's like out there like smoking hash or whatever it is that they have, like she's just high off her ass, and he's just like, I'm just trying to survive, and then like everyone's fucking dying.
I think it is
Hayes, and everyone's dying in his village, and he's just like, what the hell's going on? You're like, oh man, this kid's definitely dying in the next 5 minutes, and then it's like, oh, maybe something is up with this kid. Like,
man, Josh really wanted him to die. Every chapter he's in for the first like half of the book, this kid's gonna die soon.
It was just very stark for me.
It's a matter of stakes, because the stakes seem so much higher for Kip than they do for Gavin. Gavin, is going to schmooze his way out of any situation, but for Kip, it's like, dude, this poor kid could die at any second. Like when he's going through those tests and stuff at the school. We'll get to that later, but
yes. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, we got to definitely talk about that when we start talking about Chromeria.
Yeah.
Before we do, though, so kind of our vibe on Kip. And I love like the gradual character introduction in this book series. You could tell that it's going to be rich with characters, and you're just like getting a little bit like he's like doing it subtly so that you don't have to remember all these fantasy names. Yeah. I feel like I read some fantasy books and they're like, bam, 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 throwing like all these crazy names at you in 10 seconds, and then you're like trying to remember who all these people are.
I feel like he did do that.
All I have to say is that the captain and the brother who Gavin actually is, both of those names are just Davos to me because of Game of Thrones. Both of them. I'm just like, oh man, I wonder if Davos is ever gonna actually talk to Davos.
When you say the captain director, are you referring to
Dazin and who?
Gavin.
No, the
general?
captain.
Iron Fist?
Corvin,
No.
I think.
Oh,
right?
the Corvin.
Corvin. That's who you're referring to, right?
Danavis Corvin.
Yes.
Danavis Corvin.
Yeah.
Corbin Danovic.
Who's Liz?
Yeah, Corbin Dallas.
Multipass.
I mean that
every time, Hitman. Corbin
I
Dallas.
was like, because it's Liv Danovic.
Davos.
Dude, when I was taking notes with Siri, that's what it would put it in my notes as, Corbin Dallas.
That's awesome.
Oh my god. Going back to what Josh says, I don't think that Kip is like totally away from the standard hero. Like the hero in every story always starts out in a broken family or some sort of like
he has some of the tropes. He has some of the tropes.
But the thing that is different about him is that
he's overweight.
He's overweight. He's overweight. He's whiny. He's not like he's virtuous like you're used to seeing a lot of people. Like, oh, I'm gonna overcome this.
Well, and he doesn't have,
usually
like, a
the
strong
main character,
personality. Like he's just kind of like, I'm gonna sit back. Like, which
they have leadership qualities, even though they're not there yet.
It adds more of a like, and I'm not at all.
You're eventually going to be a leader.
I think it adds to him as a character because he's way more relatable.
He's endearing.
He's way more relatable to be like, oh, he didn't start out as like this guy who like in a random battle just fought off like 50 wolves like by himself and saved the town. Like,
or like he killed some guy in
like cried and ran back to the town. And was like, holy shit! Somebody do something!
Wait! Before we get off the Kip topic,
tacos.
Yeah. Before we get off the Kip topic, one of the best scenes that just describes Kip to you is after he gets to the Chromeria, which we'll talk about when we get to the magic system, the Chromeria after that. But when he gets there, and he's immediately describing the assassination attempt, his pants, like flailing his body down on the ground, like how he's trying to fight this large woman trying to throw him off the balcony. Like, it is the most, like, it's like the most,
like,
I barely survived, and this was the ugliest possible way. And, like, how the entire thing ends where he's, like, describing how he knows how a really big person cannot pull themselves up over the ledge. Watch this person die. His pants are down. He's got punched in the balls on the ground. The only way that he won is going dead weight. Like that entire scene, and then the scene ends with puke mist getting put on him multiple times in a row, and he's like, I hate puke. And like that entire scene
was like, I hate puking. I hate seeing people puke. I hate puking myself, but I've just learned I hate someone else puking on me.
Like that entire scene, and then you just imagine him sitting there on the ground, his pants are down at his ankles, he's been beat up, he just basically killed a person for the first time, and he's like, he's getting barfed on by Liv, and you're just like...
At least they both got a little embarrassed.
Yeah, I'm just like,
you're like, yeah, he overcame it, but you're also like, oh, that's wrong.
dude. Normally, like you're reading a fantasy and they like overcome it through some like sheer
outsmart him.
I was like, none of that.
He's just like, I'm bad.
As a matter of fact, not only did he not outsmart it, he basically almost threw himself off the balcony before he even realized that.
But
somebody was trying to kill him.
technically though, he did kind of outsmart her. Like, there's a lot of people
He
that
took
would,
advantage of
in the moment would not think to do that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't think to stop fucking struggling, but just to go limp. Like, even light people could potentially save themselves doing that.
It's like when you pick up a light person, but they go dead weight.
It's
the
way
weight's
heavier.
everywhere. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's going like
Did you hear that, Shiho? She would always go dead weight when we're carrying her home. And she'd be like, anyway.
So the entire book, I was expecting Chip to break down. Because even though I said it was slow in the first half, it was. But like for him, like the entire thing, one bad thing happens after another, and I was like, once he's just gonna break, and like
it's
fall
just
apart,
and
like realize there's like no time to really, since this started, his whole town was wiped off like 2 days ago. It feels like like 5 days.
Yeah, and it's expected to just be like, okay, well that's over. You need to move on to something else now.
Right,
And then it's like,
I feel like
the training, and then immediately
the
like, oh,
test,
you're
the
testing.
training.
Like, it's
He
just
was
like,
immediately
wow, this shit is
whisked away to a
going.
shiny, brand new life. Like no
Yeah.
transition
Dude,
whatsoever.
but I feel like Ben. I didn't think he was gonna break down in terms of like breakdown. He's so used to his life just being
Not
miserable,
right, yeah,
like or one
I
like
mean,
nothing really
it
working in
wasn't
his favor. That
happy.
he's just kind of like it's
It's
Tuesday.
the norm.
I think that's minimalizing it. Like his whole village is down. Like his one kind of friend who is almost retarded died.
Samson.
Talk about
His mom,
what was
who's
his name?
like,
Samson.
Dude, I was totally like, I was totally thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, he's even got like the same name. Like, this is the Samwise Gamgee.
Gamgee.
This is what's gonna get him through this fucking thing that's coming up. And then it was just like, and he's dead. It's like, oh,
He was
okay,
getting
never
him
mind.
through it until he
Yeah.
was in the water and Samson just was swimming down instead of out. And Kip's like, "You're swimming." It's like swims down and gravity just breaks his nose. Just like I love how the author put these like it's kind of like you're thinking of a scene. It's almost like he was like, "I'm thinking of a scene in a movie," and how could it just like now
go differently,
like. And he gets kicked in the face, and like that happens, and this happens,
and I think
you
it's
know?
such a cool way of going about the main character. Well, what we're assuming, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be the main character because things are going in that direction. But
Seems like it, yeah.
he's just like he is shit on so hard, and just shit is not going, and he's just like fumbling through, and you're just like, man. This is how I would have fucking gone through this. I would have been like, I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, I'm just gonna run up and try this, and like,
Yeah.
it's
he meets he meets Gavin, and he's like Gavin's like okay, you row, I'm gonna take a nap because I need some sleep, and he's like, as a matter of fact, I'm not just gonna row, I'm gonna literally row all night. Hey, I'm gonna let him sleep so much he's gonna be proud of me. Like he just has all these ideas, and he rows all night long, and then he realizes he cramped up. He gets up, he falls in the water and kicks when he kicked Gavin in the water. Like he just like can't.
made it
like,
worse.
Yeah,
That's
he
one of
just,
my
like-
favorite quotes of the book is when Gavin, like, he's like so afraid. He's like, oh, I'm trying to impress him, and now I just dunked him in the water, and then Gavin gets up and he's like, I love a good morning swim. It's one of my favorite quotes of the book. I loved it.
And then you think about like that like luck factor, because like there's a point where he drifts through on Gavin sleeping on the boat. It's like clear in the dark.
Oh, yeah, and there's like all those
it
traps
looks like
set up.
he's just
Yeah.
like walking on the water, and the guard's just like he just waves at him. Like that's where you get these little tidbits of like Kip using the moment that he like reads a moment. he reads something and uses, even though he doesn't have a ton at his disposal, whatever is at his disposal, he can actually use quickly.
Yeah.
He is quick-witted when he's not like all muddled.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't get confused or
Yeah.
fun up and then because even Liz
Oh.
With a
it's
V.
like
Love.
you use that tongue on me and then he convinced her to go with him
Yeah.
by
Oh,
not
dude.
even trying.
The best thing before we move off of Kip, he's like obsessed with pretty much every girl. He's at like that age, and he even knows it, and he even talks about it in his head.
In his monologues.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, he's just because she's there. I'm not sure, but oh my god, she's so hot. Like
Yeah.
whatever, this or that. And then he's back with Liv, and he's like immediately forgot about his other crush.
Yeah.
He died.
Yeah.
But like he's just like.
Well, he even says he's like, did I really like her though, or did I just like her because Liv wasn't around?
Yeah.
And he's gonna keep saying until he finds someone else, and he's like, oh.
If Liv died and the other girl lived,
Yeah.
then that's what he They're like, oh,
I don't
I
think
must
so,
not have loved. I know. I'm just.
He
kidding.
brought up Liv
I'm
like
just kidding.
before.
Yeah, I know.
But
Liz is
she was
awesome,
nice
though.
to him.
Yeah.
So is he just a nice guy? Is like and he goes nice to him. It's like I would love you.
He's like
No,
in,
he's just like not. He doesn't have a lot of experience.
he's
with
an
these girls
incel
liking.
in current world,
So
right?
Yeah.
I think he's. It's
an
not that
incel.
he's an incel. It's just that he's 15.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
That's
I know,
true.
I'm just
and
gonna
he
hard
hasn't.
time.
His
Grown
dick's
in.
like a divining rod, and every woman is water.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Yeah. He's
Brent and I will allow it. I was like,
I even thought it was
Yeah.
hilarious in that scene when that girl was trying to kill him, the big girl, like lifting him over. He's like, his heads were in her boobs at that moment, and he's like, this should last less long. I mean, this should last longer, but I don't know. Why am I thinking this right now? Like, she's about to kill me.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just like, same thing as when
he didn't know that she was about to kill him at that
well,
point.
at first he's just
like,
like,
oh, she's gonna be so mad. My face is in the.
Hey, since we're talking about this scene so much, there's one point I wanted to bring up, which I wondered if you guys saw this too, or if I just misunderstood this. When that whole scene kicked off, he woke up in Liv's bedroom, and that assassin had come in and woke him up and was pretending to be his instructor, basically. Yeah. Why didn't she just kill him in his sleep if she was an assassin? Like, why did she wake him up?
I think she needed it to look like an accident and
Yeah.
throw
he
him
fell
off the balcony.
Like he fell off. Like it wasn't an actual like.
Yeah.
He killed himself, and because you can't slit your own throat.
Right.
You could
I thought
put
it was-
a
that's
pillow
what I
over
felt.
his face and then throw his body off. She didn't think
But I
that
think
through.
I actually, Andrew, Captain, you bring up a good point, but I think she would have done that if he stayed sleeping.
So he was already
Thing
kind
is
of
that
waking
he
up.
I think he woke up right when she came in, right?
She woke up as she came in the room.
She woke up. She sure did.
She woke
Yeah,
up.
but
that
they want to look like a suicide on accident.
Plot twist. Kip's really a girl.
Boom.
So I took it as like she came in and then
Spoiler
he
alert.
woke up, and because he woke up, she was like, "Oh, I'm your teacher."
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. On the
you
balcony.
guys weren't bothered
You
by
like
that at all?
boobs?
I thought the same thing initially, Andrew. I was like, why did this woman like
Wake him up.
wake him up?
Right.
But she didn't like, hey, get up. He kind of was like.
I think he woke up as she came in.
woke up.
Here's the thing that happened to me, so I don't 100% completely remember it. Is that
Brett tried to get us out.
is that I was like cooking breakfast while I was listening to this chapter, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, how is he fucking fighting? So I had to rewind it, so I didn't pay close attention because I was just waiting for the fight to start. So I don't know exactly what happened.
It was a
So
weird
it-
fight scene because it started with that, and then it went to like a makeout
Just
scene
immediately-
almost when she lunged at
With
him
his
on the
face in it,
balcony,
yeah.
and then it quickly escalated into the fight. I was like equally confused. I'm like, whoa, shit! And then
Oh.
the author just comes out and says, oh, this has got to be an assassin.
Yeah. So I actually loved that scene because the way that I thought he was writing it is from Kip's perspective, which is basically he rolls over, he's
yeah.
having a dream about
Oh, that's
a
right,
woman.
with his mom.
And then or his mom.
His mom.
And then he wakes up and this lady's coming in and he's like, wait, where am I again? He's like, where am I? And then this lady comes in and she's like, I'm your teacher. And he's like, wait, oh yeah, I'm at the Chromeria. And
Yeah.
like, he's so disoriented. And then, so like the entire way that was written was like, if you were disoriented.
Groggy.
You see this lady like come in and like suddenly, and it's by the time he's at the balcony about to get thrown off that he's like, oh shit!
Yeah. Oh wait, I should probably try and live.
Yeah, like so he didn't even like have a clue, and that's why that didn't bother me from that side. And so the way that, but again though, I've read it twice.
Yeah, I don't remember. Well, so have I apparently that scene, and I don't remember it throwing up any red flags for me. But I do to kind of get off this specific topic, but on the same scene is I also really, really love just this image that was in my head of him like going limp and like just trying to like survive that way, and then all of a sudden just like being dazed and confused, and then like looking and seeing she's almost off the balcony and just going, whoa. He literally just sees her and he's just like,
Oh yeah, that's right.
whoa. And I just thought that was awesome.
And then she's hanging there and she's just like, you goddamn motherfucker! And he goes, the author doesn't even say the curses.
Yeah.
She's just like hanging there and she's like just cursing at him for like 20 minutes after she couldn't get her leg back up. And he's like,
No, he punches her.
Just slowly clicking fingers
she was
off.
actually trying to get him to punch so she could grab because she couldn't pull herself up. I just like it was the most like sloppy win
I know,
ever.
right?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man, it almost looked like a Bears victory.
I think Andrew, I agree with you. Like, I think it wasn't made apparent that he woke up like at the right moment.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that this person woke him up. Like, I think the assassin was trying to like kill him, but then he just like
Woke up a little bit too
woke up at
fast.
the right moment.
I'm pretty sure that that's what happened. I'm pretty sure I remember him being at a moment in his dream with his mom, and then he woke up and saw her.
So,
I don't. She
I thought
didn't.
he
She,
heard the door or something.
yeah,
I
she
could
didn't.
actually
She
tell
didn't
you.
wake him up.
I could tell you because what actually happened, he was dreaming and then his arms started to hurt in the dream, and then he woke up and he was laying on the hard ground on a carpet, and his arm was like asleep or like jammed into him, and he was like, "Oh, where am I again?" And then
he
came
saw
in.
her. Yeah.
Then she came in actually.
Yeah.
So like he actually woke up before she even
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fate.
Little
Man,
fate.
Brent Weeks does not shy away from gore in this book. I'll just say that.
Yeah. So that, by the way, that was an amazing like Kip entry level discussion. But as the cherry was mentioning, I think it's time we devote a little conversation to what might be an epically huge magic system. It's obviously ingrained into the world. I'm curious to hear all your guys just like general thoughts on what you know so far.
Go ahead. You were starting.
Well, I was going to say, when I first heard of it, because I had read Brennan Sanderson's
Nine Angel trilogy.
No, the
I'm sorry.
The
Brent
Stormlight
Weeks
Archives?
Stormlight.
no, even before the Storm.
Oh, the color, Warbreaker.
Warbreaker.
Yeah.
Stop writing so much, Sanderson.
It's hard to keep track. Like,
Miss
I was just like,
Warbreaker.
I'm like, oh, because
Skyward.
I had read Warbreaker first. So when I started this series, I'm like, oh, they're going off of like a color thing, and I'm like, because I loved the magic system in Warbreaker. So when I first was introduced to this, I'm like, color is such a cool idea.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was immediately like, oh, I kind of like this, and the whole Luxon idea that you're gonna turn like absorbing a color of light into a magic. I thought from the beginning, I'm like, this is an awesome system. It's super unique, and even though I'm like, I was funny because even then I'm like, oh, that is super unique, which is based off like very similar to a Brennan Sanderson.
But
way.
those
I think it's just
systems
such a
aren't similar at all, though.
Yeah, they're very different.
They just
very
use both
different.
use color.
Here's
But-
sorry, go
It's
ahead.
very simple, but I think like it's such a cool concept of I'm gonna take something that we all like we just kind of take for granted, like it's around all of us, and it's gonna feed into this system like as a way of like power.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
The thing that I really, really liked about it, now this might not be so much as we're learning towards the end part of the magic system, but just part of the way that I was thinking about the magic system through most of the book was this idea of the halo. I thought that was a really, really cool aspect of it where, like, literally the candle that burns brightest is going to burn half as long. Like, this idea of you can't use it too much, being limited by how much you can do it. Now, that may turn out to be not true based off of what we learned towards the end. We're not sure exactly how much of that is actually just the Chromeria.
When we get to Chromeria, we have
and-
to have a long conversation about that.
Definitely something.
But there seems to be
because
some
people
of
are
it.
dying when they do like hit that.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later, but
crazy.
Yeah.
but I thought that was a really cool idea, this idea. But even if it is what the Omnichrome Prince said it was, which is just a way to keep people in check because they get power hungry, even if it is that, I think it's a really cool aspect of it that your eyes actually show how much power that you have, this halo effect or whatever. I thought that was really cool, yeah.
All right, I want you guys all to go before I go. Who's next?
Yeah, I thought Luxon was pretty cool. It's difficult to understand at first, but you get to see like direct examples of how it operates as the book goes along. Like in the earlier sections of the book, you see Karis encounter Corbin Dallas in the flaming church basement in the ruins of Recton.
That seems so awesome.
And there's like all of this, and there's all of this liquefied Luxon around, and it can be used as an explosive. And they were talking about how they were using it to fuel like fire, like Greek fire and like weapons of war and stuff like that.
I loved when Callus was like, Corbin, my man, ain't got no fire. You got any fire? I ain't got no fire, my man. Corbin. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really unique. Like the possibilities are endless with this system, especially when you see what right away what Gavin can do. Like he can just build an eagle out of pure Luxon, at the drop of a hat. So it's like omnipotent level power for one of the characters. You get to see their perspective, so it's pretty neat. I like it.
I also just really quickly just going back to I don't know if I want to do this. It's not really a spoiler for Warbreaker, but I also kind of thought it's not though. But I was just thinking about kind of like the similarities between like the Prism and the God King.
Oh, like,
and,
how many
levels above everybody else they are, and just how they're just like unbelievably next level.
He doesn't even have to worry about breaking.
Doesn't even have to worry about the halo.
Power, besides getting sick if it does too much.
Right.
And apparently that's
light sick is normal to everyone, but it is a lot more than for
him. Yeah.
Manny, I'm curious.
Bi curious.
Oh, so Jeff likes Rectum too.
He was sad when the rectum got destroyed.
Okay. I was sad when Rectum got destroyed. Not mine though.
Yeah.
God. I think that it was really hard for me to comprehend at the beginning, and for me, I was just kind of like, what? Kind of a deal. And I think as it progressed, I got a little bit of... I obviously got a better idea and understood it better. But even now, I still feel like...
There's some underlying rules we don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is still really limited.
Let me ask you guys this, though, because this is how I felt personally. Even though my understanding of the magic system is still a little limited, and I don't exactly know how all of it fits together, was there ever a point in the story where you felt like, how is that possible? I don't get this.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I felt like that didn't ever happen to me. I felt like there was always a point where I was just like, oh, okay, I get it because of that vague concept that I remember from before.
No, I agree with that.
Really?
The one part when the general was trapped in an egg, well, he trapped himself in an egg. I'm like, how did he make that egg? How did he get in that?
And what was the purpose?
Yeah.
Oh,
the purpose. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And how did he make it? He just put Luxon around him.
Well,
Because he was
He
cold
fell
and he
in
didn't
love
want to
a
fire.
monochrome.
What's that?
He's a monochrome, so he can use
Red.
He could only use red. Yeah.
But
But he used it to build a red egg.
Yeah.
He built a red egg. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What don't you understand about red eggs? Idiot.
So that's a good point, though.
I mean, Dr. Seuss has green eggs
Yeah.
and ham, and yet red eggs are somehow a
I
problem
will
for you.
say something really, really cool about this magic system is that at this book, you still don't know everything at all.
Oh, barely
but the thing
anything.
is that there's actually an immense amount of, he went Sanderson level on the system.
Yeah.
And instead of
Details
like
and-
explaining it kind of early, it's so complex. He's like gradually doing it, and I think it's by design. This
Well, I
is
think
coming from my second.
I think
read.
it could probably take weeks to explain the magic system.
Yeah, dude.
Isn't that his last name?
Brent Weeks.
We need to get him on this podcast to explain that.
Manny, stop shaking your head at me.
I will tell you though.
That was brilliant.
Here's something that I absolutely fucking adored about the magic system that they're just hinted at right now, which is that because of the fact that, and he used all real research to do all this stuff, because of the fact that blue eyes taking more light, that's more like useful,
So is blue
but
eyes.
because white skin shows the color when you absorb it, having darker skin
is better. Dark skin,
so
blue
like
eyes.
they were like literally for generations upon generations constantly trying to breed dark skin with light eyes to like hide the Luxin when you're drawing it
have the
and be able
most
to
light.
see more light so that you could draw more efficiently Luxin later in the evening and earlier in the morning or out of other
that's-
lights.
yeah.
It's like such a cool little concept that they just mention, but that drives so hard into their culture as they start to explain all of these weird intricacies in the areas. Like the Blood Forest people are light-skinned, red-haired, light-eyed. But then there's other areas, like in Tyria, where they're dark on dark. But then you get like Kip, who's normal,
Who's fat on fat.
but he's dark,
Not
he's
just
darker,
chubby.
but he's got those blue eyes.
Yeah.
He's got the blue eyes. And it's just really interesting because it throws a cultural dynamic in the fantasy world.
One, it's
here.
believable too, because you're like, that's how people here would be like, oh, we're gonna marry, like I'm gonna get.
They're
this
trying
Yeah,
to
back in the
like,
day,
and that's why they say like Danavis Corvin, his family, they were a war family. He's only a monochrome, but they were like that whole country was like constantly trying to just breed darker skin in so that when they're fighting, you can't see the Luxin, you can't tell as quickly. There was cool things about the halos and like how each color has like an attribute and an emotion tied to it.
I thought that was cool too.
Like they're just certain
Mood rings.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little interesting though, towards like the beginning of, or maybe not the beginning, but towards like kind of like the earlier parts of the book when they were talking about like how people perceive the skin like tone to be so important. At no point can I actually picture the skin tone of any of our characters.
Yeah, they don't describe.
They don't
the
describe
Superman.
anybody.
They briefly do.
Do they?
Like
I
Paris.
agree. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I know that
They
Iron
do
Fist
say,
or whatever
but
his name is black
Dark
and
skin,
really,
yeah.
really white teeth.
But everyone
Paris
else-
is lighter
yeah.
skin.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Because you could
If he
see
was like full
when she
black teeth
draws
also.
red Luxin.
I'm really good at
Tyranians
I'm a really good
are
drafter. I
darker
got black
skin,
teeth.
so that makes Liv and Kip darker skinned
complexion. Yeah.
I can't wait to see the white thin guy they cast as Kip in the movie.
Agreed.
My favorite part of it is I still think that the whole risk to drafting, like this whole idea that it's like you're
Yeah, I
granted
like
this
that.
amazing power, but it's gonna kill you.
I know.
Sooner.
Like
I'm just
you
not
wa-
sure if that's actually part of it now or
granted,
not.
It may not
Yeah.
be,
But
the
I
whole
loved that
idea
aspect.
of the risk I love because
Yeah.
a lot of times they're like, oh, the strongest is just always the strongest, and they're gonna be the strongest. But like they're like, oh, you can be like not super strong, but you can just expel everything. and be super strong for
Yeah.
a really short amount
Like
of
the
time.
Adept.
Yeah.
Like it adds such a depth
The
to
wall,
the
the
whole,
orange, like the wall artist.
Yeah, it adds such a depth to the characters and their actions because
Well-
you have to now think not just like, oh, I'm the strongest, so I'm the only one that can be like amazing. Well, granted, Gavin's a bit like that, but
prisms
prisms are
die.
a bit outside. It's 7,
early as
14,
well.
21 years,
But-
whatever.
Most
So-
of them die at 7.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
Multiples
But-
of 7.
well, yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite parts about the book.
I love that about the magic system.
Going off of that, one of my favorite parts about the book, because that's a really good point, because even if what we know about the risk of it is falsified, although there's probably some element of truth to it, but even if it's completely falsified, just what that says about characters that do it is interesting. And that was one of my favorite parts about the book. This is towards the end of the book, so we won't linger on it too long, but was the moment where Gavin was doing some of the freeings or talking to some of the people that wanted to go out, and he's like, wow, I finally realized that these people are actual heroes. You know, it's like, I
it's
wish
the hardest part of his
it's
job.
the hardest
yeah.
part of his job, but I also like the moment where he's like, man, maybe this ritual would not be so painful for me every year if I hadn't done to my brother what I did. You know, it's been tainted for me, but he's like finally realizing like why they do it and that these people literally sacrifice their lives for this.
Well,
this
and even
order.
I think it's like it's introduced super early on with the first green right that like is just like, oh, my halo's broken. He's like, I
Green
got
light,
hours
yeah.
left, but I disagreed with this what they're gonna fucking do. So you
Yeah.
know what? Today is my day to die, and it's
Yeah.
just like such a cool way of like saying just like these it's super important. They're highly like prized, but they're gonna go nuts.
Well,
They're gonna die,
like-
and it's just so cool.
As like a final remark for part 1, I think I
Mm-hmm.
just want to like say something that's really, really interesting. The fact that in times of war or in times of need or in times of desperation, let's say your job depended on your family depended on how much you were drafting.
Yeah.
And the more you could draft, the more you could provide, but
That's right.
but the quicker you'll be gone.
the quicker you'll be dead.
Yeah.
It's like a crazy.
I mean, it's almost
little
not that
dynamic.
much different than work in general.
And,
though,
and they also
you know?
say that like discipline matters because it's an addicting feeling.
Yeah. The more
also,
you do
the
it, the
more
more
you
you
do
want
it,
to do it.
and the older you are, the more like pull the colors have over you. Then second is like genetically, there are people who just last longer than others. And then there's like a moment where it's just 100% like discipline, like the White or Andros Guile, who are in their 60s.
Yeah, they're like
and
the
Andros has
drafting-
just blacked his whole room out and
like-
blacked his whole eyes out and
Like, I just
refuses
won't
to
see.
even see anymore.
Yeah.
Because he refuses, because one more draft might
Kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah, or put him over the edge.
put him over the
It's
edge.
such a cool. I love the idea of this limiter that just like you can't. It's not infinite. It's
I'm
not
just-
just magic. It's just like
I'm
give and take.
so curious if that limiter
Is
is
it
real or not. Yeah.
It's a
I
good
feel
point.
that
It's a good
limiter
point.
is like back in the past when people go color white, that a lot of them were going crazy. And it's,
I think so, too.
At the end, we kind of like 50-50 maybe
Right.
or whatever. And then
I have a-
this place came about the
Or-
religion, and they're like everyone does this dies, and that's the rule.
Right.
Something I thought.
I do have a feeling. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
but
go
just
for it.
because it's right on the same
Yeah, go
topic.
for it.
But I do have a feeling that he's probably, in my opinion, it's very relatable to real life. Where like I feel like people that aren't super religious, that are a little bit more free thinking and less dogmatic, kind of look at some religious things and they don't understand like why they are that way. But I feel like almost everything, even the stuff that you don't understand, has a reason. But because it's so detached from the period that we had that reason, it's kind of hard to see, and it's been taken to such an extreme. So I feel like there's probably going to be something there where it's like you can't see why this is that way, and there is a reason, but because
It's not as
because the
dogmatic
reason
or-
is detached from the actual reason, they follow it even if it's not adhering to the actual reason that rule was
Yeah.
put in
Like,
place.
put in place
you
for
know.
it.
Yeah.
So something I do want to bring up before, and it's related to the same topic, is number one, the people of Tyria are terrified by the monsters that came into their wall.
Yeah.
Secondly, is Omnichrome more sane because he can balance more colors and thus balance his personality. Whereas if you're a color white of one or just two colors,
Monocle.
the insanity may be easier because it's so easy to just be permanently in the grips of the... It's kind of like, oh, I get angry fast. But if I'm always angry, what's that going to do? You know what I mean? If you break the halo and you're just a green, you're going to be fucking crazy. If you break the halo and you have broken the halo on
all of the
7
spectrum.
of the or whatever, like 5 of the 7 colors or whatever. Well, you could balance your personality out a little more strategically. Maybe?
And I also
know.
I also wonder if there is a little bit of an aspect of beyond your color, if who you are as a person
like
plays
the
into that as well.
like Dan Evans, right?
Right.
They're like, he's 40 and he's not even, his eyes have barely changed from
Corbin
war.
Fisher?
Corbin Dallas.
I mean, at that point, I don't necessarily think it's going to be anything like that because, like, thousands of years, there's going to be so many people who've gone through it. You'd think that some of them there would have been people who would have had the right personalities to get through it.
But why does a prism
But they
exist?
found
But
the
the
religion.
thing is, though...
Yeah.
Like,
There's
people
people
with
with
the
the
right
right before they get to
personalities
the point.
probably
We'll
followed
start
the
off with
religion.
Yes!
But Josh, I do have to say that
Exactly.
I don't think that just because we haven't heard that has happened doesn't mean that it hasn't
never
happened.
happened.
You know what I mean? Like, it may be determined upon them keeping this as a tradition for them to kind of just do it regardless of if these people are actually crazy or not. It's like, oh, you've haloed? Time to go. You know what I mean?
That's a great segue. I think we're going to take a break, folks, for part 1, and we're going to start part 2 with the Chromeria, the religion, the practices, and our thoughts upon them. And that
Yay.
will lead to a lot more, because, oh my God, we got a lot to talk about.
We do.
All right, folks, cheers.
Cheers.
Come home.
Fight.
Manny, that's
The
closed.
last of it.
It's also done.
It's empty.
Burn rectum.
My rectum burned.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.